Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Trench Talk. We got a fun, action-packed week here as we're still waiting for the season to start. We're Christian Royston here with Logan Shanks, and it's finally happened. Brandon Ayuk has finally signed a contract.
Yeah, this news came in. I mean, yeah, definitely for sure. Finally, was this yesterday afternoon? Thursday afternoon. I want to say.
Yeah, I think so. I remember seeing that
And
hit, and I was like, oh, my
yeah,
God, finally we can stop talking about this guy.
and it's the situation's interesting. But you're right. All the tweets that were coming out about it, like my guy Ari Birov just ended it with "It's finally over."
I mean, that seems to be the consensus with everybody around here.
Yeah,
It's if for anybody that didn't hear for some reason, he's staying with the 49ers, and that
breaking
was kind
news.
of my prediction from the start.
Mhm. Yeah, you're gonna have to go. People are gonna have to go back to Trench Talk. Episode probably like 2 or 3 when we were first talking about this, and yeah, that you called it from the start. I personally thought maybe he would go somewhere else, but after like 2 3 weeks I was like, okay, well, preseason's about to start. You're gonna have him learn a new playbook with like a month before the season. The closer it got, the more I thought that he was going to stay with the Niners, and lo and behold, he did.
Yeah, I was kind of in the opposite boat where I'm like, the longer it went on, the more teams that were interested, I was like, oh, 49ers aren't getting this done. He's probably going to leave. I was for sure sold on the Steelers probably like last week.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, seems like something that the 49ers do. They have a lot of holdouts, contract negotiations, and then they end up just figuring it out. And that's kind
Yeah.
of what happened here.
And the situation I said was interesting because so he technically agreed. They agreed on this deal. What was it? A couple weeks ago. But he's now
Yeah.
just like either signed it or made it like official that it's going to happen. So it was a hold in, but like the Niners pretty much knew that this was going to happen for the last couple weeks.
Yeah. I think it was like he was weighing his options because they've, I feel like they've had multiple deals out for him
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, we have your new contract, we have a trade set up.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you want to do?
Right. And so the dollar amount, I guess, if we want to put that out there, we haven't talked about that yet. 4 years, $120 million. It's a little bit less than CD Lamb. I actually was watching SportsCenter last night when I got back from work. It's the same amount. It's the same contract. I don't know, specific details, but it's the same contract, 4 years, 120 million, as Amon-Ra St. Brown, which he signed, I believe, earlier this offseason.
Yeah, and he's making the same, I believe, yearly uh, salary as Tyreek Hill as well.
Oh, gotcha. I didn't even
So I
see
think
that.
Tyreek also makes 30 million.
Wow.
So apparently, we're now putting Brandon Ayuk in the conversation with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I think Brandon, he's going to be a guy to watch this year. Is he going to live up to that contract? I think he has the capability of doing it, but I mean, if you were to ask me what his extension was going to be like, I would not have guessed the same money as Amon-Ra St. Brown
Yeah,
and
and
Tyreek Hill.
I think that's why it took so long too, is because if you're asking for that amount of money, the team's probably like a little hesitant to give to
Mm-hmm.
someone who's still young and hasn't really shown the potential that people of that caliber, of that like price range, have shown.
Mm-hmm. But he's gonna have to come out this year and really prove that contract.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if maybe at the end of the year we're talking about, did he really deserve 4 years, 120 million? I mean, that's a really talented San Francisco 49er team, and they're still also dealing with some hold-ins with Trent Williams, who I completely forgot is wanting
Yeah,
to restructure his contract. Um, I thought we went through this the past couple of years, but apparently Trent knows he's one of the best left tackles in football, and still holding in on that contract.
yeah, that's another interesting scenario because I kind of feel like they should have paid Trent Williams over Brandon Ayuk. Um, but now that you have Ayuk making $30 million a year out of your possible salary, whatever you can give your players, and now you still have a lot of contracts coming up. You're going to pay Trent. You're going to have to pay Brock Purdy here soon. Are you going to be able to keep McCaffrey in the future? Like, what does your team look like going forward? And it seems like they're investing pretty heavily in Brandon Ayuk of all people.
And defensive guys, especially, like, I think Fred Warner's already gotten paid, but like Travarius Ward's going to have to get paid. Hufanga's going to have to get paid. Let's not sleep on him because he was probably one of the best parts of their defense. And Brock Purdy, yeah, of course. I mean, he's coming up on that. I mean, he's coming up on that contract. This is the last year of his deal. So, honestly, I heard some people talking about this is kind of a make or break year for the 49ers because of how much they're paying Brock Purdy.
Yeah. I mean, if Brock Purdy goes off again, you're probably going to have to pay him upwards of what everybody else is making. I mean, $50 million a year.
Yeah. I mean, I think, if he has another year like last year, I think the bar is set for pretty much 45 to 50 at least. So,
although I could see him being somebody that values wins over money, take a lower contract, similar to like what Tom Brady was doing his whole career. Lower contract so you can pay your skill players and then, win more.
Yeah, we know him as that, Iowa State guy, just good old Arizona boy. He don't care about the money. He's not a flashy guy, but he's going to come out there and he's going to win games for you.
Salt of the earth, that guy.
Yeah, you may see him, he's a guy that you may see him out at the bars in college. We never did. I don't know about you, but,
Not that old.
Not that old. You went to school with him for sure. I technically did.
Yeah, there were some years I was there with him.
I've just seen videos, but anyway, sorry to throw you under the bus, Brock.
But one of your guys also got paid.
Oh yeah, we talk about Brandon Ayuk maybe not deserving that money, but if we want to switch over to CD, I got this notification at work. I was scrolling on my phone for something. I honestly might have been doing the Wordle, and I get the notification. Breaking all this. It's an official tweet, and I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. And my man got paid, and he deserves every penny of it. And I'm so excited that we finally get this done. Yeah, we had to wait. Oh, CD didn't get to play preseason. Who cares, man? Who cares? He hasn't been at practice for a couple weeks. It's all right. We got it paid. We got him done, and he's back. And it took you long enough, Jerry, but thank God we signed him.
Yeah, and well-deserved. I mean, he's clearly shown that he's a top 3 receiver in the league here over the last few years. And, I mean, it does, giving him that amount of money kind of sets up, like, where does the Dak contract sit? Is Dak the one that's going to be gone? But I feel like if you want to keep somebody, keeping CD is pretty good. He'll make anybody look good.
Yeah. Now I think it's just getting Micah's deal done, which I wouldn't be surprised if that gets done in the middle of this season. And Dak, it's becoming even more clear that Dak may be the one that goes, because just as much as Jerry was pushing off the CD contract, he is doing the same with Dak, and it's prolonging even more.
Yeah, I feel like we'll be going into next season probably seeing, debating where Dak is going to end up.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and then what are the Cowboys going to do? They'll have to draft a quarterback, which they probably won't be able to do because, they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, and then their draft pick's going to be at 32. So.
But, come back to you on that one.
Yeah, I gave it a shot. But, no, I was so excited. I'm retweeting this. I'm putting this on my story. I was super excited for that deal to get done. And just seeing him back in practice, all the videos and whatnot, it's like we got the white whale back.
The white whale. Yeah. And I mean, I'm looking at his contract right now. Second highest average per year. Yeah.
In terms of total money, it's $4 million behind Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, which is about where you should be sitting.
Mm-hmm.
So not a lot, not really a big surprise there that he
No.
earned that money, that they got the deal done. I mean, it feels like, the season's next week, so it seems like all these teams are kind of in the hustle mode. They're like, all right, we got to get these deals done.
And we talked a little. I mean, we'll talk more about this game later on, but if we want to talk about a little bit about contract restructures, obviously Cowboys are playing the Browns in week 1. My Cowboys playing your Browns in week 1. But did you see that Deshaun Watson actually restructured his contract and the cap hit that he will have next season?
I saw that they restructured. I didn't see the details though.
So just for next season, for 2025, after this restructure, he has a $73 million cap hit in 2025 and 2026, which is the most of any player in NFL history, unsurprisingly. But does this mean
The
they
for life.
might cut him after this year if he doesn't perform?
Yeah, they should. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking to get this deal done in the first place, but at this point, the longer he's on the team and doing nothing, the more damage he's doing to the future.
And I could just be sounding like an idiot because, his cap hit 73 million. That means if they cut him, they'll have that much in dead cap for the next couple of years. But I mean, okay, so they restructured the contract. I don't really think they're doing anything with like other players to like clear up money for this season. It's just kind of a weird move that they're doing it this close to the beginning of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it'll just set up a make or break a year for Watson.
Yeah.
Which I feel like every year should be that for him because he really hasn't proven himself since 2020. Yeah.
He hasn't really done much in his time in Cleveland other than throw some interceptions, and he has a winning record there, but he just hasn't looked good.
Yeah. Well, so did the other 3 backups.
That's true. Also, let's not just slide past Cowboys signed Dalvin Cook. I'm just kidding.
I did see. I saw that news coming out that they were going to get the deal done because he visited earlier this week.
Right.
And I mean, they showed some training, his workout footage, and he said he feels the best he's ever felt. He looks pretty good.
Okay. Well, as sports reporters, how many times have we heard that?
Okay.
I'm just saying, how many times have, who comes out and just says like, yeah, I kind of feel like shit. I probably won't be good this year.
That'd be me if I were playing.
Be brutally honest. Be like, you know what, man? Like, I'm just not really feeling it this year.
Well, it'd be the guys that move in silence. That's kind of what they're saying. Like Zeke.
If he moves,
he's back with the Cowboys. He hasn't really said much though.
Yeah, because he can't talk at all. He was. Listen, I'm all for the Ezekiel Elliott redemption arc, but like, come on, man. Like, what is our backfield? If this was 2020,
I was about to say
we got the best backfield in
a few years ago. Oh yeah,
mm-hmm. Yeah. But now
it's like a retirement home.
Yeah, that's what I text my roommates. I bet both of them rush. I bet both of them rush for under 700 yards.
Yeah. I mean, Dalvin Cook last year when he was on the Jets
and the Ravens.
Oh, yeah. Did not look great.
No. And when Zeke was on the Patriots last year, he did not look great.
Yeah. And you want to talk about a real injury-prone running back, Dalvin Cook.
Yes.
So it's an interesting signing. But
it is interesting to say the least.
I think it'll matter.
But other guys in the wide receiver conversation that are still waiting for that contract, I'm surprised Jamar Chase has still not gotten anything done.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring that up because the coach had told the media, he's like, oh yeah, we're good. We're set on him. He's practicing with us now. He's suiting up he's going to re-sign with us.
Mm-hmm.
And then earlier this week, shows up to practice with street clothes.
Yeah.
And coach had to pull those words. He's like, "Oh, may have spoke a little too soon there.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking it day by day. Hopefully, we can get it back by week 1." So I know that all the fantasy owners are shaking in their boots. Their first round draft pick is sitting there, similar to Le'Veon Bell, his holdout year.
Yeah, thankfully I did not draft Jamar Chase yet. I know we have a fantasy draft coming up with your friends here in a few days, so that'll have to be taken into account. But I did get my man CD in one of my leagues, so I'm excited for that. Anyways,
and also, quick fantasy tangent. It was also announced this week that Kyron Williams is going to be a punt returner. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did.
Everybody's overreacting. They're like, where does this put him now in fantasy ADP? They're like, I won't even take him if he's in the 6th round. Like, he's going to go undrafted. I'm like, even if you don't, I mean, most people don't count punt return yards.
Yeah.
But we're just assuming that if he returns punts, he's going to be injured.
Yeah.
I mean, how rare is it that a punt returner is injured, especially when if he's going to return kicks, we have a new kickoff rule to keep him safe. Like,
right.
I'm sorry that Sean McVay is not really caring about your fantasy team. He's like, Kyron Williams is pretty good in an open field. Maybe we should have him returning our kicks.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that people are pushing back on is that, if he returns punts, then he's not going to be used in the offense. That's just not true. Yeah.
Yeah. We saw Antonio Brown return punts in his prime. Tyreek returned punts for the longest amount of time for the Chiefs. Yeah. I mean,
even
star players do it all the time. It's just we've moved away from that because there's a new breed of specialty players that, they're a lot better on kick returners than, somebody who's going to be mainly focused on, running the offense.
Even guys like Cordell Patterson, he's been a punt and kick returner, but then also for a handful of years been a prime option as a receiver or a running back.
Yeah, so I could see Kyron taking a similar role because I'm pretty sure when he was on the Falcons, Cordell, he was his good year, I think he was also returning kicks.
Yeah, he was. I remember what you were talking about. He had that was, I think, 2021 maybe when he probably had close to 10 total touchdowns. But even we see it at Iowa State. Jalen Knoll is the punt returner, and he's also wide receiver 1.
Yeah, although college is a little different because you're in your prime health wise.
True.
And you're not getting. You have grown men running at you at full speed in the NFL.
That's true.
As opposed to 18-year-olds.
But Kyron Williams, we're overreacting to this. He's fine. I think I might have. Oh no, I didn't take him, but I took Blake Corum. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and I'm not really sold on Blake Corum.
Could be good.
I think Kyron Williams has looked really good last year. He's still going to get a majority of the touches. Could be a Jahmyr Gibbs situation where maybe Blake Corum doesn't see action until halfway through the season and then ends up being the better back.
Good thing he's on my bench. Good thing he's on my bench for now.
Yeah. Good stash pick for later.
Oh, yeah. We can move to college unless you got anything else NFL contract-wise you wanted to discuss.
Nope. All I had down was
hating on my guy DK. Yeah, this guy just randomly writes DK Metcalf still trash on our docket, and I just don't get it. We did have a big text conversation a couple days ago about arguing about DK. Christian was just.
We've been talking about a lot of receivers. We'll get into all-time receivers later.
Mm-hmm. But Christian just randomly hating on DK recently.
Yeah, I don't even know how it started. I think he just said "Wow, I can't I keep forgetting how freaky DK is" or something.
Mm-hmm. Pause.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, it's too bad he's not that good.
Yeah, that's if only our text got leaked, people would see how our tangents can just ramble on.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like they could never make me like DK.
What do you mean?
He was barely a top 3 guy in his own draft class, and his history making seasons are like kind of a weird stat that somehow there's like never been like more than 3 people that have had 900 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns in like their first 5 or 6 seasons or whatever.
Okay, well, it's like 900 yards and like 9 touchdowns to be.
Pretty sure it's 5.
5?
Look it up. Yeah, but I'm like, that's not a great stat line, so that kind of really says something about, I guess, the toll that the receiver position takes. You can have down years because you're, quarterback inconsistency, injuries, whatnot. They're like, maybe you'll have a guy like Mike Evans who's probably getting like 1,000 every season, but he probably had like a 4 touchdown year, which actually kind of funny. I have Mike Evans' stats pulled up. Yep, he had a 3 touchdown year.
Okay, well,
so I mean, just kind of a weird stat. I think DK is good. I mean, he has
hot take.
Incredibly freaky build. He's insanely fast, strong. I mean, but there's also like a lot better route runners, a lot better players with their hands,
Mm-hmm.
People that are faster.
I can't seem to find this tweet that I sent you. Maybe I sent it to you over text, but here he is. Washington needs 900 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns to join Randy Moss as the only player in NFL history to do so in each of their first 6 seasons.
Yeah.
6 seasons.
Random
6.
stat.
That's not random. And he's not just getting 900 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's getting more than that.
Not much more.
Oh my God. Okay, we're last little bit on this, and then we're moving on to college football. But dude, come on, I think you're just hating on him to hate on him, to be fun with it.
No, I mean, I really liked AJ Brown in his draft class from the same school, and people have been, I mean, for some reason, people have been like overrating DK more. I think DK is like has been a good fantasy receiver, but like, I mean, he doesn't have the catches that I want from a receiver. He's a little inconsistent. I guess not super inconsistent since he has 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns every year. But Terry McLaurin was better out of that draft class, and I think people forget that he's a person. I think because Terry McLaurin's I think he's currently like a top 15, top 10 guy, even in the league. He's just had, Walmart quarterbacks throwing to him. So it's like.
It's true. But I think you still have to give it to DK for putting up those type of numbers in a really, I mean, when he's sharing reps with Tyler Lockett, who's a great receiver, and now this past year with JSN.
Yeah, but also he has had Russell Wilson throwing to him for, first half of his career. And that was during the time when Russ was like a front runner in the MVP race, like every single season. So it wasn't like he was really missing touches because, Russ is going to throw like 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns to people. So
it's true.
I just think
he's great, and we're not giving him enough respect. Specifically, we're not giving.
Well, I think he's great, and we're giving him too much respect. That's my thing. It's like we're talking about him as a top 10 guy, but there's so many guys. I mean, he wouldn't be the number 1 guy on half the teams in the league.
We're not getting into this debate again. We're not. Well, I could go on and on about this. We're going to move to college football.
Too. They can never convince me about this guy.
Top 10 for sure. Anyway, moving to college football. And it's a big week in the state of Iowa with both Iowa and Iowa State back in action. I'm sure UNI is, but we won't talk about them because not really indulged in my Missouri Valley or whatever conference they play in.
Football. Watch a good offensive line.
That's true.
Watch UNI, but other than that,
that's about it. And they're going to have David Johnson back there. He's getting inducted into their Hall of Fame this year, I think, for their opening game.
Yeah, people forget how good he was.
He was really good at Northern Iowa, and he was really good for a couple years in the NFL. Like he had 1 year where he was like number one running back, or he was the number one fantasy running back, right?
Yep, and then he got injured, and then I drafted him. And he never played. And then he went to the Texans, and I actually really liked him on the Texans.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. Is he from Iowa? No, he's from Memphis, Tennessee. And he went to went to Northern Iowa out of Memphis, Tennessee. That's crazy. Anyway, but we could start with the Hawkeyes, get them out of the way. Going to be without Kirk Ferentz for at the head coaching spot. I believe this is the first time in since the 1970s where Iowa's head coach for a football game will not be either Kirk Ferentz or Hayden Fry. So,
yeah, which is an interesting stat, but also what a tiny slap on the wrist for him. He's like, I'll take the punishment. I won't coach against Illinois State.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's definitely just getting it out of the way because he's hoping that the NCAA doesn't give him a worse punishment.
Yeah, they should. They should make him not coach the Cy-Hawk game.
Watch them still win even though he's not coaching.
Yeah, they'll still win 3-0.
Yeah. Every person that I've talked about that, we'll talk more about it when it gets closer, but every person I've talked to about the Cy-Hawk game, I'm always like, yeah, I'm scared for Iowa State to go into Kinnick, and they're like, oh, well, they won last time they were there. I'm like, okay, do we need to really remember, do we need to remind people how they won that game?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there were 2 fumbles into the end zone by each team, and then one 99-yard touchdown drive that won the game because Iowa missed their last-second kick.
Which was aided, and you were there, so you remember more than I do, which was that 99-yard touchdown drive was aided by a couple ticky-tacky Iowa penalties, if I remember.
Okay. Well, that wasn't the main story, though.
No, it's not the main story.
Hunter Deckers, he's so good. He just led that drive.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Hunter Deckers.
I think Jairo Brock had to carry the ball. He carried the ball damn near 30 times and barely had 100 rushing yards.
Yep. Touchdown and a fumble.
The game honestly should have been more in favor of the Cyclones. They probably could have been up 13-3 in the first or second quarter.
Yeah, but also Iowa
blocked the punt. If you remember that, so that was
they fumbled the ball into the end zone. So
yeah,
I just remember watching that game, and it was getting down to time. Okay. We weren't sure who was going to win it. And then it got down to the last drive and they had stopped them. But I think there was some weird penalty or something, or they were able to move into field goal range, but we had already left because for anybody that doesn't know, Kinnick Stadium is very not good for away reporters because first of all, the press row is this much space behind you. Let me turn it.
Yeah, it's the Cy-Hawk game, so you have every news outlet in the state of Iowa there.
So I'm bumping elbows typing. I'm like this. And then we have to run down across the entire field because the away press conference is on the opposite angle, which it was also raining, so that's fine. Classic Iowa. And then, but we had left. We were going down to the stairs to go sprint down, and I remember hearing people be like, "Oh my God, Iowa might tie this up," and we had to look into the broadcasting room. There was a little crack, and I was like, "Oh my God, please miss a kick." And then moved it up to like, it was like a 30 or 40-yard kick, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had to sprint back to watch it. He shanks it. I'm like, oh, cool. Sprint back down. I mean, it was.
Yeah. So for anyone that is, doubting that Iowa State can perform in Kinnick, no. I would say, okay, we'll talk more about this later, but Iowa State, we'll talk when it's more relevant, but Iowa State having to play in Kinnick is way worse than Iowa having to play at Jack Trice. And I'll stand on that.
Yeah. Iowa State fans are just not as visceral. Volatile.
Exactly. I'll stand by it. Not most. Okay. There's a good chunk of Iowa fans that are just mean. And I sound like a child when I say it, but like, I don't really meet a lot of Iowa State fans that are just like mean. But when you play at Kinnick Stadium, you'll.
Yeah. And I would tell people, if you want to get solid evidence, go to each team's social media account. Like, if anything is posted about Iowa State on like TikTok or something, the comments are just flooded with Hawkeye haters, just like, still trash.
Go Hawks.
Oh, Hawkeyes are so much better.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what did we do to you? We're not even in the same conference. Like,
right.
Like, we play you once a year. You should win that game. We're a basketball school. You don't. And then you go into the Iowa comments, it's all just like, yay, go Hawkeyes, oh, I love the school. It's like, you don't see a single Cyclone person in there being like, this is our year. We're going to win 10 games and you're going to win 9. Like, come on.
Yeah. But
that's
moving on to staying on Iowa's first game against Illinois State. Yeah. I'm probably going to have to – so I'm going to watch the game, but I'll probably have to put down a bet on I don't know if I want to bet on their over-under points because I don't know how this offense is going to look. I mean –
well, Cade McNamara is still at the helm, so probably bad.
And, there's a small chunk of people out there that are optimistic about him, and I'm not. I know he was hurt last year, but do we remember how bad he was when he did play?
Plus, we've seen him in the offseason workouts. We've seen him playing that first scrimmage. Like, he doesn't look good.
Yeah.
I mean, people are trying to argue that, oh, well, he was a great quarterback when he was at Michigan. I'm like, okay, well, Michigan was just good. Mm-hmm. Like, any quarterback could have been in there and looked good.
Right.
I mean, that's just how Michigan works. It's not like they're winning games because of their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He had a winning record because Michigan's defense is probably top 3 in the nation consistently.
Right. And, he's going to, like, even in their first couple games last year, like, he just wasn't, like, the Cyhawk game, he wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. And I just don't really get it. And a lot of people, like, we need to also take into consideration that he was in a quarterback battle with a guy that they had just brought in this offseason. And he, from what it sounds like, from how Kirk Ferentz has talked about it, the Iowa media, he barely won that quarterback battle.
Yeah, he didn't answer any questions that they had about the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Because what it sounds like from what I've seen from the press conferences is that Kirk Ferentz is still not really happy with the quarterback room.
Why would you?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been good in a while, and it's not just going to magically change. Cade McNamara is not just going to randomly become like one of the best quarterbacks in college football.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of his glaring issues are still there.
Mm-hmm. I get they have a new offensive coordinator and everything, so I'm excited to see how that will look. Don't get me wrong, like, I will still watch the Hawkeyes. I won't root for them, but I won't root for them at all. But I will watch their games mainly because being, in the state of Iowa, I want to be able to talk about what I think about their team and not just be a biased Iowa State fan and be like, oh, well, they're trash. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing, though, I do like the spread. Minus 22.5 is what I'm looking at.
Okay.
There's no way they hit that.
You don't think so?
No, have they beat a team by 20?
That's true. That's a good point. That's why I don't want to bet. Like, I might just throw out, like, what's the over-under? Because I might just throw out something
40.
fun on that. 40? That's not hitting. I'm hitting the under on that.
Yeah, if they do spread, they're probably going to win like 31-3.
Yeah.
I find it very unlikely that Iowa puts up 4 touchdowns, considering it took them like 6 weeks to do that last year on offense.
Right. And even I'll look up their schedule from last year, like when they had to play like Western Michigan and teams like that, and they weren't good.
Yeah, they almost lost to South Dakota State, which, sure, South Dakota State's a really good team. I think they won wherever they play. I can't remember.
South Dakota State, they're undefeated after losing to the Hawkeyes 7-3 a couple years ago.
That was last year.
No, 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, because that's right, because we went to Iowa with that game like fresh in our mind, like, okay, Iowa, it was also 7-3, then it scored an offensive touchdown.
That was the big
2 safeties. And we were like, oh, the offense can't possibly, like Iowa State's going to win. Iowa just can't score. And then Iowa State did win.
So looking at their first couple games from last year, Iowa, they beat Utah State 24-14, which was not a great game. Then they beat Iowa State 20-13. And then they did hang 41 points on Western Michigan.
41?
41.
To what?
10.
Okay.
So
but still,
I'm a little I'll have to think about it, but in terms of the over under, I might bet the under on it just because it's an Iowa offense.
I'm telling you, if anybody wants free money, just bet Iowa unders. That's how I field all of my betting last year. It's just winning money off Iowa unders.
And they will they'll still come out with one of the best defenses in the country. So that's honestly one of the reasons why I somewhat enjoy watching Iowa is because they do have a good defense to watch. Like there's going to be some NFL guys on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and speaking of a guy, Cooper DeJean, I don't know if you saw this, his final preseason game.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
was not good. It was terrible.
You were telling me about this. I didn't watch it. You've been a big preseason guy.
Yeah.
Like watching all the games.
PFF graded him the lowest of anybody last week. And I went back and looked because I'm like, there's no way. Like, I wanted to see him play. Yeah, he gave up 2 touchdowns that were the receivers couldn't keep his feet in bounds. He got burned on pretty much every play. He was pretty bad in man coverage because he just was getting beat on any move they did. It was a comeback route. He let the receiver get 7 yards of space. He'd get burned on deep routes. I mean, really, he looked really good when they were blitzing him. So I'm like, maybe that sets him up to
be a strong safety.
Yeah,
strong safety. I think that could honestly work. We do have to give him some credit though. Like this is a kid who he's coming off of an injury. He was injured for I think like the last 3 or 4 games for Iowa last year. So I think maybe give him give him the regular season to figure it out for a couple weeks, but I don't think moving him to safety would be the worst idea. Especially with his size and length. Like I think he's perfect with like flying around the field, either getting tackles, breaking up passes and stuff, but like man-to-man coverage, I don't know about that.
Just not fast enough. I mean, there's a reason there hasn't been white DBs in the past, so
right.
I don't think that he's going to be the guy to change that, unfortunately.
And honestly, in retrospective, I should hate Cooper DeJean more than any Iowa player ever because he went to Iowa and now he's on the Eagles. But, I think honestly,
breaking the color barrier.
I think when this is like the second case scenario where like when Iowa athletes go to the NFL, or go pro, I start to not really hate them as much. Like I used to hate Caitlin Clark in college, but now I'm like, I don't really care. I've accepted she's just really good, and she doesn't go to Iowa anymore. So
I hate her even more now that she left.
well,
Because it's almost like they're trying to like feed this, like I don't know, they're just trying to feed the WNBA to people. Like they're like, oh, she's really changing. Look at the viewership. I'm like, okay, well, why are we still talking about this? Like,
Mhm.
you know, it'd be slow news day. I don't know if you ever watched like the local news channels. I mean, sorry, Keith Murphy, I love you. You know, you do great work. But I swear, if you every single news cycle, there's 3 stories about Caitlin Clark. It's like she had 2 assists this week. It's crazy. Like,
Well, they have
okay,
to.
cool. She's leading the league in like assists, but like, I don't care. I'm
Local stuff.
sorry.
They have to focus on her more, especially KCCI because she's from Dowling.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
I'm just
how
saying.
much can you even like? It's the same stuff recycled every single week. It's like I know, I know it's easy content too. I've been in their boots where it's like,
We had to do that with Brock Purdy last year.
yeah. So I understand it, but also like it's too much. Like it's turned me off of wanting to watch KCCI because it's just so much Caitlin Clark. It's like,
Well, now you're in Minneapolis, so you get their news, and I get Siouxland news too.
I
And
guess.
if Christian were to, if I would not have it on my bingo card that Christian was going to take a random shot at Keith Murphy this episode, one of the goats in Iowa sports reporting.
I know. I love Keith Murphy. He's
That was
amazing.
that was unnecessary.
Yeah, but
You
it's
gotta.
just this recent cycle with just all the Caitlin Clark stuff is just like it's like, bro, I can't even watch anymore because like even if I didn't hate her, it's just like I don't care anymore. Like,
But for this wrapping up this Iowa game, they're gonna win. Final score, I'll throw it out there. Give me something weird. Give me 25 to
4.
25 to 9. Give me
Yeah,
something.
I think I'm going with like 22-3.
One field goal. You think Illinois State gets one field goal the whole game?
Yeah,
That defense is really good.
yeah, and
So,
it's not like Illinois State's offense is good, so I really don't see them getting a touchdown.
well, what if they get one
And
set up by a Cade
Big
McNamara pick?
Big Ten, that's probably how they're going to get a field goal. Big Ten punting is no joke.
Especially at Iowa. All right, we can move on to Iowa State. They're playing North Dakota, not North Dakota State. They played Colorado. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But they're playing North Dakota. I was telling someone the other day that this is more of a safe game for Iowa State than when they've played UNI the past couple of years because when they play UNI, it's the same feeling that you got about Colorado and NDSU. You're like, Iowa State could lose this game, but you're going into this North Dakota game and you're like, there's absolutely no way Iowa State.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what you want. I mean, that's the same thing that Iowa's doing now. Iowa saw like, oh crap, we almost lost to South Dakota State. Like, we got to schedule some lower teams.
Yes. Schedule the cupcakes. People in college football, they do it all the time. Like it's Kansas just played Lindenwood and beat them like 48-3. Like it's okay to schedule a terrible team and beat up on them.
I didn't know Lindenwood had a football program.
Neither did I.
Thought it was just a gymnastics school.
And or basketball, because we played them in basketball too.
That's true.
But gymnastics specifically. Yeah. But I mean like there's no shame in scheduling the cupcakes. Like
no, you gotta like get the gears moving. You know, WD-40. Just get it all greased up, so when you get to real competition, you're not. I mean, the big thing is like the first game is always people like getting back into the swing of things. I think last year we saw so many people just get like cramps. You know, their stuff's tightening up. Like they haven't gotten into the rhythm. Like their body's not used to going through all those motions. So like you want to go through the motions with the team you know you can beat. So that you're not a step behind when you're playing a team that can beat you.
Right. But, you know, in terms of, I think, you know, Iowa State's obviously probably going to blow them out of the water.
Yeah.
But we know that Matt Campbell doesn't really tend to beat up on teams, though.
No,
Like, yeah, they're gonna beat North Dakota, but it's not gonna be like 42-6.
no, and he'll pull his guys because there's a lot of school. I mean, you look at Colorado. We'll get to that after this, but they were still passing the ball with like a minute left.
Which
Unlike
was stupid.
Matt Campbell would have his, JJ Cole would be in at that point. He'd be in the fourth quarter.
And that's what Chris Williams was saying. He's like, he hopes that they at halftime they're up by enough. I don't think this is going to happen, but
No,
he hopes they're up by enough to where like JJ Cole gets a quarter and Connor Moberly gets a quarter. I think that's a little
that
bit
would
too
be
much
nice.
to ask.
Yeah,
That's a little bit too much to ask, but it would be awesome if it happened.
yeah. I think at the very least we'll see a couple drive. We'll see a drive from each in the
Yes, I
fourth.
agree. Okay, like let's say Iowa State is up like 28-0 at halftime. Do you throw those guys in?
Not yet. I'd run one drive on offense, continuing with Becht,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you score, if you score, obviously you put them in. If you don't and your defense holds, you put them in. But if you don't score and your defense gives up a point, the last thing you want to do is give the other team a fighting chance, because if the momentum swings too much, you're just going to be out of the game.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to see. I mean, I was telling someone yesterday, I'm like, I've been doing so much for high school sports that I forget that Iowa State plays tomorrow, and I'm really excited for it because I remember just like I finally get to be like a fan this year for Iowa State football, so I'm really excited for that. I'm hoping to go to at least a game or two, but really excited to see that offense come back. We got our guys on defense. I'm going to be looking at Big 58 down in the trenches, J.R. Singleton. That's our guy for sure.
Oh, yeah, my guy's Bo Freeler.
They're both Freeler. Throw out a couple more names for you. Linebacker, another guy I have seen out on Welch Ave a couple times. Caleb Bacon.
Or Malik Verdun.
That's our
7.
guy.
Yeah.
And Miles Purchase.
He's going to be great.
Miles Purchase is, I think he's
I've heard people say that Jaden Higgins is going to be like,
oh yeah,
a top 10 receiver in college this year.
Yeah, I would agree. We saw him come alive last year, and I'm really excited to see him do that. I mean, he's I feel like they have the perfect 1-2 punch of like Jaden Higgins outside the numbers, Jalen Knoll in the slot, and then for that third guy, it sucks that Daniel Jackson's going to be out for the year, but you got either Benny Nagoye, Green from North Texas, Eli Green, right, and then Isaiah Alston.
And Kai Black from Urbandale. He's a receiver.
He is?
Yeah.
I feel like I remember him. Anyway, but yeah.
I don't know how much he'll play, but.
And then tight ends, Ben Bramer.
I mean, he is going to probably be like a top 5 tight end in college this year.
That might be a stretch, but I can see. He was really good as a freshman, but yeah.
Yeah. He was really good as a freshman, and Brock Bowers is gone. I mean, there's still some really good guys out, but like as a pure receiving tight end, he's shown that he's incredible.
Yeah, I hate that we kind of hated on the Hawkeyes a little bit, and we're just glazing the Cyclones. But what can you say from?
We can hate on them a bit.
What?
We can hate on them a bit. Let's.
Iowa State.
Yeah. Well, my big thing is Iowa State never starts the season strong. Which is why I'm glad they're not playing UNI, because they have lost that game.
Yep.
They lost to
Louisiana.
Yeah. So, I don't think North Dakota, I don't think is going to be the one to upset them. But Iowa State lost to Ohio last year, so
that's true.
If anybody is, I don't think there was any Iowa State fan that was lower on the Cyclones last year than me.
Do you remember that Ohio game?
I try to forget.
It was terrible. I had to cover that game.
I know. I was glad I didn't, because there's no way I could have. Yeah, I tend to take kind of like a more realistic view of the season as opposed to a lot of people. I'll point out the flaws, and I'm pretty sure after that game I said, "Come on, Campbell, let's get our stuff together."
Mm-hmm. No, I would agree with you there, but this is, I think the defense is, I mean, they return a bunch of their stars on both sides of the ball, so you have to be optimistic there. But I will agree, it is a slow start, especially when you have to go on the road against Iowa next week. I wouldn't be surprised if still like after their non-conference schedule, we're still not super high on the team as a whole.
Yeah, I think they have the potential to be like the best Iowa State team we've seen in a while. Even if they lose to Iowa, I mean, Brock Purdy never won against Iowa, and he led some of the best teams the program's ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I don't see them missing a bowl game this year, especially because the Big 12 is, I'll say, not as good this
Their
year.
schedule is a lot easier than last year too.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to have to play against an Oklahoma or Texas this year.
And they lost to both of them last year.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the Big 12 is open for grabs.
Mm-hmm.
I think
up for grabs.
Grabs open for the taking.
I think this will be the big year in the Big 12 where like whoever establishes themselves as the top teams this year is going to continue to do so for the next couple of years, whether that's Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and I haven't even mentioned newcomers like Utah and Colorado. So
yeah. And you want to talk about Colorado?
Yeah, we could talk about Colorado.
Okay, because classic Colorado fashion, they almost lost to North Dakota State.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Dion opting to late in the game not run the ball in the fourth quarter gives NDSU a chance. Now they ended up falling short on a Hail Mary, but still.
Yeah, I mean, even though they did fall short, it's kind of like, could you ask for more from your offense? I mean, Shedeur Sanders put up like 450 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Travis Hunter
caught 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that last Travis Hunter catch where it was like a Madden glitch.
Oh, so he's got the guy right in front of him.
He's got the guy in like almost bounces off the guy, or like he has to grab it through him. It was weird. But
yeah. Would you say, I mean, I was talking to someone yesterday about this. Would you say he's a better receiver than he is a corner?
From what I saw yesterday, yes.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
And I feel like that was the case last year too.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he is good. He's a great player. I mean, he has good IQ. He knows where to be. He's fast. He has great hands. So I mean, he can keep up with guys. He's a good corner too.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, his talents as a receiver, I mean, he showed it yesterday.
Travis Hunter, 7 catches, 132 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Jimmy Horn also going off for the Buffaloes.
Yeah.
7
Jimmy
catches,
Horn
109 yards.
Yeah, he was leading the pack for most of that game.
Mm-hmm. Someone should probably tell Shiloh Sanders that instead of going for dirty hits on the sideline, he should be covering his man, because NDSU had a field day against the Colorado defense. A lot better than, I mean, I know they only give up 6 points in the second half, but that game should not be close if Colorado really wants to bounce back from last year.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing from last year, is that their defense was losing them games. I mean, the offense, it's proved that it can put up like 40, 50-point games with ease, but the defense just cannot get a stop most of the time.
I think look at games, especially from last year, I think you look at games like against Stanford. Mm-hmm. You go into, what was it, halftime, third quarter, up 20-something, and you lose?
Yeah.
I just don't get. And if we want to, I mean, true trench talk fashion, we'll talk about the Colorado offensive line did not get any better from last year as well. Shedeur was running for his life and having to make plays on his own in some plays there.
Yeah, which I mean further shows how good of a player he is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he I feel like if his team is good around him, he could be in the Heisman talk. It's just if they win 4 games again, there's no way you can even think that he'd be there.
Right. And but obviously they pull out the win. I won on the spread. Spread was 9.5. I thought that was an easy bet because I just figured NDSU was going to push the pace against Colorado.
Yeah, and I'm in Minnesota now, so I can only do prize picks. But I hit on them, but I didn't cash. I had Shador over 3 or more touchdowns, which that hit.
2.5. Then, 3 or more. But yeah.
And then I had Travis Hunter over yards. And
those easily hit. Those hit in like the first half.
Yeah. But then I also had the Minnesota game because I'm going to have to be a Golden Gopher fan.
God, what a terrible game.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if you watched the whole thing.
I watched like the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. So they honestly, okay, it was raining up here. I get that. But the ground game was like not working. Like, well, I guess it was like somewhat because what's his name? Major. He was filling in for Minnesota's like really good running back. He had some really good runs. I mean, he was keeping them in the game. Did some good catches too. But Brosmer, who transferred from New Hampshire, I want to say, I thought he was going to be amazing just because he was incredible last year. But I think he's adjusting to the Big Ten, definitely.
Yeah, he ends up only putting up 166 yards. I needed a few more yards for him to hit his over. But
I needed 170, and I would have been a not rich man, but would have had some food money for today. But I guess I'm gonna have to eat rice. No, but it came down to last second field goal. I mean, the kicker, he was great last year, right? The team, the final drive, they have just the most poor timed holding call of all. Like, they don't get the holding call. They're within field goal range, and then I wasn't a big fan. Maybe I was biased because I was, rooting for the over in passing yards, but you have, I think it's like second down, you have 12 seconds, or I think they brought the clock down to like 8, ran a play, punched it up the gut for no yards. I was like, that didn't really do anything. It set up a 47-yarder.
Yeah. Which
and
is
your
tough.
Kicker missed a 27-yarder earlier in the game. So it's like, I saw that. I was like, come on. If you had thrown the ball for another 5-6 yards,
give him
42, 35 to 42-yarder. He did hit a chip shot earlier. So, I mean, that's a lot more manageable.
Yeah, I think even in the NFL, like a 47-yarder, you're still like, you can't turn your head away from that. And especially in college, like you're not going to always find guys that can just casually hit 45-yarders consistently.
Except for the North Carolina kicker, who is incredible.
Yeah, their offense was – I don't know if their offense was terrible or maybe Minnesota's defense is just that good. But North Carolina was not great last night at all.
North Carolina's running back was doing numbers. Every time he would touch the ball, he'd get 4 to 6 yards.
30 carries for Hampton, 30 carries, 129 yards.
Catches, too.
Yeah, so – but their quarterback was not great.
No, which was expected. I think he was coming from LSU and Texas A&M where he like had a 500 record. I mean, and which I don't want to trash on him too much because he did get injured. He had to get carted off during that game.
Right.
Got a hit to the knee, so not looking good for him. Kind of hope he gets back because, I mean, it seems like he's been battling his whole career. His parents were there. They kept flashing to them, and it's kind of sad whenever that happens.
Yeah. So there, I did see a stat today that Minnesota is the first, obviously since with the new expansion in the Big Ten, they're the first team to ever solely hold 18th place in the Big Ten. So that was kind of funny.
That's cool.
But
That's
not a great, yeah, not a great game from either team really. Some running backs had some success on both sides, but
yeah,
other
there's
than
weather
that,
problems. They had to delay it an hour, so running backs
2
were.
hours. 2 hours, I want to say. Was it?
It was just one. I think it was
Okay.
supposed to start at 7.
But yeah, the weather was bad up there. We got hit with some of that in Siouxland as well. So
yeah. But I think that was the last college game that I watched.
yeah, I mean, I'll have to look over some stuff today. Again, a lot of blowouts. There'll be some good games on tonight though, which I'm looking forward to catching if I get the chance.
Yeah, I know that Bowling Green scored on a
100-yard touchdown or return touchdown.
100-yard kick return touchdown on the first snap of the game. Like it was 5 seconds in. So that's kind of cool.
And then Coastal Carolina, for some reason, was an underdog yesterday, and I bet on them because I thought there's no way they lose to Jackson State, and they blew them out. So,
yeah,
that's good to see. Yeah, a decent slate of games today. I will hopefully make it in time to watch TCU at Stanford at 9:30 tonight. So,
okay.
That's really the only game I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I don't even know what games are on. There's too many here. I seem to have missed the Friday games. Here we go.
Temple at Oklahoma.
Kind of want to see what Wisconsin has.
Yeah.
Been following my guy Nick Oak, and so I've been seeing a lot of tweets.
Florida Atlantic at Michigan State. There's maybe some games if you want to watch. I'll be covering a football game tonight, so you'll have to keep me updated on what's going on in the college world.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's any heavy hitters today, but we'll have to see about this TCU Stanford game.
I think that's the best game, probably.
Yeah, by a lot.
Yeah. So we can move on. I mean, we hit on them earlier, wide receivers a lot in this episode. For our fun topic today, we'll go to, kind of a topic we were talking about over text a couple of days ago, which is top 10 receivers. And I know Christian's very passionate about his list, so he can start.
Oh, yeah. Which I apparently have 16. That's how passionate I was.
You know your historical receivers there. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of debate over number 1 and 2 because I put Randy Moss as my number 1 over Jerry Rice. And I understand that Jerry Rice is the GOAT.
He has the numbers.
Nobody will ever get to his numbers. Like, it's just not possible. And he has some of the most unbreakable records in sports. I mean,
yeah, like Justin Jefferson, who's the best receiver in the league, maybe has what it takes
but he has to play for like 15 more years.
Yeah,
at the same level, which is crazy. Plus Jerry Rice with all those Super Bowls too. It's like,
that's true. Yeah. But
there's never been a player like Randy Moss. I mean, you would throw the ball up and he would just get it. I mean, they invented a new term for his name.
Right.
You don't rice people. You can rice potatoes, but not people.
Or like our guy Jacob Rice. Shout out.
Yep. Hopefully he's watching. But yeah, I mean, Randy Moss was fast. He was dominant. He had the best receiving season. Debatably the best receiving season of all time.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, his season with the Patriots is just unmatched. I mean, you could say Calvin Johnson's record-setting year was the only one that is better or comes close, I want to say. Plus, Randy Moss had like a historic start to his career where if you see a stat about a rookie or a guy who's been in the league for like 3 years, it's like the only other person to do this was Randy Moss.
Right.
It's like LeBron James type stats. So it's my number 1.
we can actually go one tit for tat on this because our 1 and 2 stay the same.
Yep. So we both had Jared Rice at 2. I
Yep.
have Megatron, Calvin Johnson at number 3 because similar to like Randy Moss, I liked talent, film. If you put up highlight reels, like plus he had the stats. I mean, he didn't play that long, so I guess you could say that he's not high up on the career leaderboards. But I mean, when he played, there was nobody better. I mean, he was just the best receiver in the league.
Yeah,
He made Matthew Stafford's career.
that is, well, he helped his career out.
Yeah,
Because I mean, Matthew Stafford is still good in his own right. We'll give him that, but
that's true. Yeah, very underrated.
but I agree. But I'm gonna have to go with To personally at 3. I respect Calvin Johnson for sure, but To had a super consistent year after his second season. With multiple teams that he went to, I think I'm a big touchdowns guy. He was consistently getting double digit touchdowns. I think again, all respect to Calvin, but I'm gonna have to switch him to my 4, and To's going at 3. But I will agree, Calvin definitely one of the most talented receivers ever.
Yeah, and I had To at my 4 because I mean it was like I feel like he's been a top 3 guy like forever. I mean,
Right.
you talk about great receivers, he's there. And ignoring all of his like off the field issues, on the field issues, like it just honestly made him better. I mean, he's just he was insane. Like when he played, he was like the best receiver.
No,
kind of.
I agree, but he's going at 3 for me. Megatron at 4. Our 5 is the same with Marvin Harrison. Senior.
Oh, mine's junior. I'm just kidding.
Hasn't even played a snap yet.
That's how good it's already in the Hall of
Fame. But I mean, what can we say about this guy that hasn't already been said? As cheesy as it sounds, I mean,
he was part of the second best wide receiver quarterback duo of all time. I mean, you think of great pass catching duos like quarterback to receiving person. I'm thinking Montana to Jerry Rice, Tom Brady to Gronkowski, and then Peyton Manning to Marvin Harrison. I mean,
and again, I mean, just consistent.
Yeah.
After that, into his 4th year, he's just consistently getting over 1,000 yards. And I mean, again, I'm a double digit touchdowns guy, and he was consistently getting that.
Yeah, he was just he was just the guy,
So that's our 5. It's our agreed upon 5. This is where we kind of differ a little bit down here towards the stretch.
Yeah, I think we can list our 6 through 10 by themselves. All right, because it's kind of hard to go tit for tat with these. We're very different. I've got Chris Carter at 6 because of his prolonged career, what he did for the Vikings with what he had. I mean, they had a slew of not great quarterbacks during his time. I looked it up. He had like a Warren Moon when he was like ready to retire. He had Rich Gannon before Rich Gannon was like good, I guess, if that's even a thing.
Yeah.
And then Dante Culpepper when he was like a rookie. I mean, he didn't have great quarterbacks throwing to him, and he was still putting up numbers. He was still keeping the Vikings competitive. I mean, I almost like what they do for the team over like what the stats show, which is why I also I've Don Hudson at 7. It's a deep poll.
Very deep poll.
Yeah, played in the 30s and 40s. Actually, he had the World War II was going on, and he had 1,200 receiving yards on 74 catches in 1942.
Right. No, I mean,
which is a great. I mean, if DK got that, you'd say, "Wow, that's a career year for DK."
keep going.
Yeah. Not only that, he was leading the league. He led the league in any a receiving stat every single year, whether it was catches, yards, touchdowns. They didn't throw the ball a lot back then, and he still had over 1,000 yards one year, which is crazy. He was having 700 yards when I bet the quarterbacks were throwing for 1,200. Along with that, he also had 8 interceptions one year, which he didn't even lead the league.
I think that might just show you how bad the league might have been then, but keep going.
Yep, that shows you how bad the passing was then, and he was still consistent.
Okay, that's true.
And then 8, I have Torrey Holt because I feel like the greatest show on turf just isn't a thing without Torrey Holt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kurt Warner was great in his own sense, but his connection with Torrey Holt was just something else. And then 9, I have Larry Fitzgerald. I know you're high up on Larry Fitz. I think he's insane. I think if he wants somebody to catch the ball, he's going to catch it. Like, there's no way he's going to drop it.
Mm-hmm.
I think his stats are freaky. More tackles and dropped balls.
Yep.
So he also played a long time. He was great for a long time.
Yep.
And a super nice guy.
Yep. Minnesota guy.
Oh, yeah. We love him. And then finally, I have Antonio Brown. Say what you want about Antonio Brown. I think people are letting the recency bias cloud their judgment, but his prime was like the greatest we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was almost guaranteed to have 1,600 to 1,700 yards every season, which is insane.
Yeah, just casual 1,500-yard season with like 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, when he was playing for the Steelers, it was Antonio Brown, everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And Julio Jones was playing at that time. That's how crazy Antonio Brown was. Like, there was not a debate who the best receiver was.
Mm-hmm.
It was Antonio Brown. So that's it.
A solid list. But, you mentioned I'm high on Larry Fitzgerald. I'm so high that I'm going to put him at my 6. I have him at my 6th spot. I just recently watched a video on him detailing his career. You talk about Chris Carter not playing with great quarterbacks. Larry Fitzgerald had to revive quarterbacks' careers when they came to the death pit of Arizona with Kurt Warner and Carson Palmer. He also had guys like Matt Leinart throwing him the ball, Josh Rosen later in his career. Like, this man could not catch a break with bad quarterbacks. And you said it, consistent with his hands. I mean, just explosive. And I sent you a clip. Actually, what was the record he had? He was like the youngest player to have 2 touchdown catches in a game until Aaron Hernandez broke the record, which that's kind of crazy. But no, I love Larry Fitz. Awesome guy. Just, yeah. And you talk about how Jerry Rice has numbers to beat. Well, Larry Fitzgerald did his best with his career to match him. And I think he ended up being second, and I think Larry Fitzgerald ended up being second in like either receptions or yards to Jerry Rice. So
I can look it up.
Yeah, you fact check me on that. But I'll ramble through. I got Torrey Holt at 7, just one spot above where you have him at. I mean, yeah, he completes the greatest show on turf. Then I have Chris Carter at 8, which, again, I agree with everything you said. Great receiver, had some terrible quarterbacks, dominated before Randy Moss got there and was still a solid piece. I've got AB at 9, just because we were talking about it earlier that, a couple days ago, his prime is just unmatched with how consistent he was. Again, I'm a big believer in the yards, the touchdowns, just being consistent, double digits. He was getting like close to 100 catches. He was close to setting history as one of like the only wide receivers to have like 100 catches, double-digit touchdowns, and like over 1,500 yards in a season. And then at 10, got to give love to my man. You didn't like this, but I'm going to give it to Mike Evans because when I'm talking about consistency, this has to be one of the most consistent guys. 1,000 yards every year in the league. Sure, some of them are, close, but like 1,007, 1,006 yards, but he's also
1,001.
getting double-digit touchdowns. And like I've repeatedly said, I love a guy that can do that. He's also dealt with some not great quarterbacks until Baker got there.
Yeah, Tom Brady. Yeah.
Okay, Jameis Winston and Mike Glennon. Let's give them some slack.
Jameis Winston was so good if you're a receiver. He led the league in yards, threw 30 touchdowns.
He was inconsistent though.
Yeah, so you don't want him as if you want to win games, but gosh, if you want to get some stats, he's going to give you those stats.
So maybe he owes a little bit of his career to Jameis Winston, but he also owes not being able to play in playoff games to Jameis Winston.
That's true. Also, Larry Fitz is second in yards and receptions.
There you go. Touchdowns, he's not super high in, kind of like Julio Jones.
Well, the Cardinals just didn't score.
Yeah. In touchdowns is Jerry Rice?
Jerry Rice is everything.
Everything. He's everything.
He had almost 200 touchdowns in his career, which is like nobody's ever going to get even close to that. No. Randy Moss was the closest with 156.
He's second?
Second. He has almost 50 less.
Fewer, but yeah. Sorry.
Well, that'll end. No.
That's my grammar coming out. Spell check. But that will actually end our list. I know I've got our this segment. I know we got some stuff that switched up there, but you don't super respect Mike Evans being there, but you gotta. I mean, come on now. He's going to be a Hall of Famer for sure.
Yeah, he's almost first ballot. It's just, there's a lot of really good guys. I mean, Don Hudson is one that comes to mind.
Nope.
People that aren't Packers fans just don't know the impact of Don Hudson.
I guess so.
Yeah.
By the way, if you guys haven't noticed, Christian's fandom can be bought. He was a Packers fan. Now he's a Browns fan. He was an Iowa State fan. Now he's a Minnesota fan.
Okay, I'm living in Minnesota, so
easily swayed. Anyways,
not that easily. You have to be a bad team for me to want to be a fan of you.
There you go.
Keep that in mind.
But
sorry, Cowboys.
But this is our last week without NFL football. Next week, we'll give you guys a preview of what should be an exciting season opener of Ravens Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And, probably recap some more college football as well.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun.
Yep. Season's almost here. I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for tuning in for another episode, and we will see you guys next week.